It was a day like any other when Sarah, a hard-working single mother, was walking home with her young son Jamal. Struggling to make ends meet, Sarah always taught Jamal the importance of kindness and respect, no matter how tough life got. But all of that was tested when two officers stopped them on the street. Without reason, they humiliated Sarah in front of her son, treating her with a cruelty she didn't deserve. Jamal stood frozen, his small hands clenched tightly as he watched the only person who had ever protected him being treated so unfairly. What the officers didn't know was that Jamal wasn't just any child. Quiet and observant, he had a brilliant mind and a deep sense of justice. As Sarah tried to hold back tears, Jamal made a silent vow. What happened next would leave everyone, including those officers, shocked and desperate for forgiveness. As Sarah held Jamal's hand tightly, she tried to shield him from the harsh words and cold stares of the officers. Her heart ached, not for herself, but for her son. Jamal was only 9 years old, yet he was witnessing something no child should ever see, a world where people in power could act without compassion. What made it worse was that Sarah wasn't just any mother. She had dedicated her life to helping others, working long hours as a caregiver. Despite her struggles, she believed in giving back to the community. But today, it seemed none of that mattered. The officers dismissed her attempts to explain herself, treating her dignity as if it were disposable. Jamal said nothing, but his eyes burned with a determination far beyond his years. Quietly, he began to observe every detail, their names, their words, their actions, each one fueling a plan that even he didn't fully understand yet. That night, Sarah sat at their small kitchen table, her hands trembling as she tried to explain to Jamal why the world wasn't always fair. She spoke softly, trying to reassure him, but deep down, she was struggling to find answers herself. Jamal listened carefully, his expression unreadable. He didn't cry, didn't ask questions, he just nodded. What Sarah didn't know was that Jamal had already started piecing things together. He had always been curious, often tinkering with old electronics or solving puzzles far too advanced for his age. But now his sharp mind was focused on something else: justice. As his mother slept that night, Jamal stayed awake, searching for information on their old, second-hand laptop. He wanted to know who those officers were, what gave them the right to act so cruelly, and how he could make them understand the pain they had caused. Meanwhile, across town, the officers carried on with their lives, completely unaware of the storm quietly brewing. In the days that followed, Jamal's quiet determination grew stronger. While Sarah thought he was doing homework, he was gathering information. He discovered the officers' names, their roles in the department, and even uncovered complaints filed against them by other community members. With every detail he unearthed, his sense of purpose deepened. At school, Jamal kept to himself, his mind racing with ideas. He didn't just want revenge. He wanted to show those officers the pain they had caused. But how could a 9-year-old boy possibly stand up to people so much more powerful? That question lingered in his mind as he worked tirelessly on a plan. Meanwhile, Sarah noticed something different about her son. He was quieter than usual, his eyes always focused, as if he was solving a puzzle only he could see. She worried about how the incident had affected him, but Jamal said nothing, protecting his secret. Late one night, as the city slept, Jamal finalized the details of his plan. He knew this wasn't just about his mother anymore. It was about everyone who had ever been mistreated. As he stared at his computer screen, his heart pounded. Tomorrow would be the day everything changed. The next morning, Jamal left for school like any other day, but his mind was laser-focused on the steps ahead. He had spent hours perfecting his plan, one that would force the officers to confront their actions in a way they couldn't ignore. He didn't know if it would work, but he had to try for his mother, for himself, and for everyone who had ever been treated unfairly. But just as Jamal was preparing to set things into motion, Sarah received an unexpected knock at the door. It was a man in plain clothes, introducing himself as Officer Daniels, a higher-ranking member of the precinct. He claimed he was there to check on her after the recent incident. Sarah's instincts told her there was more to his visit. His questions felt probing, as if he were trying to gauge what she knew or planned to do. Jamal returned home to find his mother visibly shaken. She shared the encounter with him, and though she didn't realize it, her story planted a new seed of urgency in Jamal's mind. Why would the precinct send someone now? Were they trying to silence her? As the sun set, Jamal worked with even greater intensity, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Little did he know, the officers who had humiliated his mother were starting to sense the ripple effects of their actions, and they were scrambling to keep their secrets hidden. Jamal was no longer just a boy with a plan. He was a force they hadn't seen coming. That evening, Jamal's plan was set into motion. Using the information he had collected, he created an anonymous online post detailing the officer's actions and linking it to a video he had secretly taken during the incident. The footage showed Sarah being humiliated and disrespected, her dignity torn apart for no reason. Jamal paired it with a message calling for accountability and fairness, sharing it on community forums and social media pages. He didn't expect the response to be immediate, but it was. Within hours, the post went viral, sparking outrage across the community. People began sharing their own experiences with the officers, exposing a pattern of behavior that had been hidden for too long. News outlets picked up the story, and the pressure on the precinct grew. The officers involved were suddenly in the spotlight, their actions scrutinized by not only the public, but also their own department. Just when it seemed justice had been served, an unexpected twist unfolded. Officer Daniels, the man who had visited Sarah, released a statement. He revealed that the precinct had been covering up misconduct for years, and he provided evidence that went far beyond Sarah's case. It wasn't just about two officers anymore. It was about a system that had been failing the very people it was meant to protect. For Sarah, the vindication was bittersweet. She was proud of Jamal's courage and brilliance, but wished he had never had to bear such a heavy burden. As for Jamal, he learned that change doesn't come easy, but it starts with someone daring to take a stand. And in the end, the small boy with a big heart made a difference far greater than he ever imagined. In the weeks that followed, the precinct faced a complete overhaul. The officers who humiliated Sarah were suspended, and an internal investigation brought deeper issues to light. Community leaders stepped forward, demanding reform, and people began to believe change was possible. Sarah, once afraid to speak out, found herself becoming a voice for others who had been mistreated. Jamal's actions didn't just change his family's life, they inspired a movement. Though his name remained anonymous in the public eye, his story became a symbol of resilience and the power of standing up for what's right, no matter your age or circumstances. One quiet evening, as Sarah watched Jamal tinkering with an old radio, she smiled. She saw not just her son, but a young man with the courage to fight for justice. And in that moment, she realized that even in the darkest times, hope and determination can light the way forward.